In the early 1990s, a superpower collapsed. The Soviet Union, once one of the most powerful nations on Earth, suddenly disappeared almost overnight. But as governments fell and the economy crumbled, something unexpected began rising from the chaos. Not politicians, not corporations, but one of the most powerful criminal networks the world had ever seen. A network that would soon stretch across continents, controlling billions of dollars in illegal operations. This was the rise of the Russian Mafia. For decades, the Soviet Union maintained strict control over nearly every part of life. Businesses were owned by the state, private wealth was limited, and organized crime was heavily suppressed. But beneath the rigid structure of the Soviet system, a hidden world already existed. A world of underground traders, black markets, and prison gangs. These small criminal circles would later evolve into something far larger and more powerful. Because when the Soviet system collapsed, the rules disappeared overnight. And those who understood the underground economy were suddenly in the perfect position to take control. Life inside the Soviet Union was tightly controlled. Most industries were owned by the government, and citizens had limited access to many goods. This shortage created a thriving underground black market. People traded everything from electronics and clothing to foreign products that were impossible to buy legally. Inside prisons, another powerful culture was developing. Criminal groups known as the Bratva, meaning brotherhood, formed tight alliances among inmates. These groups operated under strict codes of loyalty and hierarchy. While small at first, they built strong networks that stretched far beyond prison walls. When the Soviet Union collapsed, these networks would become the foundation of a new criminal empire. In 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolved. For millions of people, the change was sudden and overwhelming. The economy collapsed, factories shut down, savings became worthless almost overnight. Millions of workers lost their jobs, and perhaps most importantly, government authority weakened dramatically. Police forces were underfunded and overwhelmed. Laws were changing faster than anyone could understand. In this moment of chaos, an enormous power vacuum appeared, and organized crime groups moved quickly to fill it. During the early 1990s, criminal groups rapidly expanded across Russian cities. They began offering what they called protection services. Business owners were told they could operate safely, as long as they paid the mafia a percentage of their profits. Those who refused often faced threats, violence, or destruction of their businesses. Soon, these groups were collecting protection money from thousands of companies, restaurants, markets, factories, and even banks. The money flowing into organized crime grew at an astonishing speed, but with so much money at stake, competition became deadly. The 1990s became one of the most violent periods in modern Russian history. Rival criminal groups fought brutal wars for territory and influence. Car bombs exploded in city streets. Businessmen and crime bosses were assassinated in broad daylight. Entire neighborhoods became battlegrounds between rival gangs. Some estimates suggest thousands of contract killings took place during this time. Powerful mafia leaders emerged, controlling vast territories and networks of businesses. But their ambitions were not limited to Russia. Soon, their influence would spread far beyond its borders. By the late 1990s, Russian organized crime had become a global operation. Mafia networks expanded into Europe, North America, and Asia. Their activities included money laundering, arms trafficking, drug smuggling, and financial fraud. Some groups moved into cybercrime using the growing internet to conduct complex international scams. Billions of dollars flowed through these networks every year, and as their wealth increased, their influence grew. In some cases, criminal groups even developed connections with political and business elites. The line between legitimate business and organized crime sometimes became difficult to see. During the rapid privatization of Russian industries, a small group of businessmen gained control over massive national resources. Oil companies, energy industries, mining corporations. These individuals became known as oligarchs. Many built enormous fortunes in a very short period of time. While most operated legally, the chaotic economic environment created opportunities for corruption, fraud, and criminal influence. The relationship between wealth, power, and organized crime became a subject of intense debate both inside and outside Russia. By the early 2000s, Russian authorities began launching stronger campaigns against organized crime. Law enforcement agencies targeted major criminal networks. Several high-profile crime bosses were arrested or forced into hiding. Others moved their operations overseas. Over time, organized crime groups adapted. Rather than operating openly with violence, many shifted toward quieter financial operations. Cybercrime, fraud, and international money laundering became more common. Today, Russian organized crime still exists, but it looks very different from the violent gangs of the 1990s. Modern networks operate with far greater secrecy. Instead of street battles, many focus on financial crime, digital fraud, and global business infiltration. Their operations are complex, international, and often difficult for authorities to track. What began as small prison gangs decades ago evolved into one of the most influential criminal networks in modern history. History often shows that moments of great instability can reshape the world in unexpected ways. When the Soviet Union collapsed, it created opportunities for new businesses, new political systems, and new criminal empires. From prison brotherhoods to international networks worth billions of dollars, the rise of the Russian Mafia became one of the most remarkable crime stories of the modern era. And even today, the full extent of its influence remains a mystery. Because sometimes, the most powerful empires operate not in the open, but in the shadows.